Things are getting weird. Like and subscribe if you agree. Today's review is going to focus on these 4 speakers in a 2-channel listening environment. We're going to start off by very briefly going over the exterior of the speakers. We're going to move on to the sound of these speakers, and then we're going to go over my recommendations for the applications of these speakers. And then for fun, at the end, we'll do a very brief summary of how a more expensive speaker would compare to this group of what I would consider to be budget titans. I would highly recommend that you pair this video with some sort of a tonic. Mainly because my videos are really not that spectacular, and I could probably benefit from the distraction. Let's start with the Sony, the SSCS5. There's not a lot about this speaker I can tell you that you probably don't already know. It's the only one with the matte black finish. It's the only one with the 2 tweeters. It's got the biggest woofer at 5¼ inches. It's got the rear port. It takes banana plugs, nice posts in the back. That's a nice speaker. Let's move on, shall we? ELAC BS41. It has the largest port of the offerings here today. It has nice banana plugs. They're the same ones they use all the way up through the reference series lineup. It's got the 4-inch woofer and the 1-inch tweeter, and it happens to have the exact same fake wood vinyl wrap as its older sibling, the Pioneer BS22LR. It's a nice little speaker. Let's move on to the Pioneer. It's got nice binding posts in the back. It takes banana plugs. It's got the 4-inch woofer. It's got the 1-inch tweeter. It's got a curved cabinet. There's something to talk about. Let's go on to the SPC22. This is the center channel sibling of the BS22LR. It is on the table today because I do use this as a pair of speakers, and I absolutely love using these as a pair of speakers. It's got 2 ports in the back. Everybody else has 1. It has the same banana plugs as the BS22LR, but they are set in a different position, annoyingly, so my wires do not hide as easily. It's got 2 woofers. It's got the 1 tweeter, obviously. Big giant curved cabinet. It's beautiful. I don't know what else to tell you guys. If you want to know anything else, just leave a comment. All right. Let's talk about the final bonus speaker very briefly here again. It is the piano black gloss finish. It has the port in the rear that is the smallest of the group. Nice plugs, takes banana plugs. It's got a 4-inch woofer as well. And I believe that this is going to be a single 3/4 inch tweeter. It's a nice little speaker. Okay, let's move on to the sound of these speakers. All right, now before I move into the sound of these speakers, I do want to point out one thing, and that is there's not going to be a clear winner here. Okay, there are no losers on this table. This is a matter of differences, really a matter of preferences. So if you came here looking for a clear winner, you might leave a little bit salty. All right, okay. The sound. We're going to do this on a good, better, best method. All right, we're going to talk about bass. We're going to go with the good. These provide tight musical bass. They do not extend low and they do not punch hard. Okay? But they do an all right job. If you're not a bass head, these will do an all right job. If you are a bass head, obviously you pair it with a subwoofer. All right? On to the better. That's going to be the big brother here. Obviously, 2 woofers, a little more sound pressure going on there. It's not a noticeably huge difference, and it's not a low-end extension thing. It's really just a punchiness right around that 80 hertz range. And because I wouldn't expect it to go any lower than 80 hertz. It was not designed to be a full range speaker as the rest of these were, okay? So, but it is better, all right? Sony's is going to be in the better position as well. It does the job, okay? It doesn't punch particularly hard, but it punches. It doesn't extend particularly low, but it extends far enough for most. If you're not a bass head, this will do what you want it to do. If you really love your bass, then you put a sub with it. Problem solved, right? And then we're going to go on to best. And the reason that the ELAC is going to take best for bass is because it does have more bass, okay? It comes in 10 hertz lower than the rest of them as far as when it comes in strong. As far as low-end extension in general, these all extend down into the mid-30s, and the ELAC is the only one that by 40 hertz is punching hard. 50 hertz punching hard, 60 hertz punching hard, 80 hertz punching hard. Okay? All right. And I'm going to move this little guy because we're not talking about him yet. Okay? All right. For the mids, we're going to go with good. Okay? And this one might surprise some of you, and just let me explain. Okay? We're going to go with good. The ELAC. All right? Now, the reason that this is good is because what I have found is that the muffled sound of the speaker is coming from the upper mid-range region, okay? The mids on this speaker are very good. The upper mids are slightly veiled, especially when compared with the competition. That's why it is in the good category, all right? Okay, better. The Sony. The Sony does the mids in a way that draw absolutely no attention to them. It's neutral as neutral could possibly be. That's all I can say about that, really. The best will go to the Pioneers, and that counts for both of them. If you were to give them a first and second position for best, it would be best, second best, best. For whatever that's worth. They present the mids in a sort of unnaturally good way. All right, and that's really the best I can say. Is it's something that you didn't expect, but they do deliver it. Okay, let's do the highs. All right, good. The reason this falls in the good category is that it lacks separation. All right, it's a very exciting, sparkly. The treble is very present. It's good, but it lacks separation. You will notice that if you listen to it back to back against the other two. All right, slightly better is the big brother. It's a center channel speaker by design. It needs to be as clear as possible, and they do a pretty good job. This speaker will be a slight improvement in the treble category to its little brother. Okay, the treble on the little brother here, the BS22LR, can run a little hot. It can have a little rasp to it, a little bit of edge to it. Ed Sheeran, Thinking Out Loud, that's a great song for testing out your treble, because there's a rasp to his voice in that song. It's in the recorded version of the song. It's intentionally there. It's not a mistake. The BS22LR, it can get a little hard to listen to that song at any reasonably louder volumes. Its big brother handles it better. These two handle it even better yet. Okay, so that brings us to the better category, and I'm gonna eliminate the better category, and I'm gonna go with best. Okay, and the reason is that while the Sonys are well known for their forward presentation and crystal clear sound, the ELAC's treble is extremely good. Okay, and So I can't say that there's a best out of the two of these. They're just presented slightly differently. And they're both best. Okay, very good treble. Finally, let's throw the soundstage at you. The soundstage is, I think, where the big outlier is. Okay, so with the Sonys, you get a very flat soundstage. It sounds like what you're playing out of the speaker is exactly where the speaker sits. That's what you would expect from a speaker. Most people. Okay, so, but the Pioneer and the ELAC, they give you something more. Okay, they wrap the sound around you. All right, the Pioneer specifically does this very well. It convinces me that the surround sound speakers are on at times when they're not. And I've had to actually get up and put my ear down next to them to make sure I'm not somehow playing in all channel stereo. All right. It also constantly tricks me into thinking that my center channel is on when it is not. The center stage is unbelievably good for a bargain speaker on the Pioneers. It's a visceral type of experience. Okay. The ELAC, they do that as well. They don't do it quite as well as the Pioneers, but you're splitting hairs at that point. For all practical purposes, they do it as well. Okay. And again, switching back to the Sonys, again, a very flat sound stage, just a flat wall of sound. These two, the sound's kind of just bubbling out all over the place. It's a very different experience. And the SPC22 does this probably the best. And that's, again, just because the dual woofers really give it a big advantage, especially with sound lobing. So you're getting a more consistent sound presentation than you do when you have the lobing effect of the two single woofers. Okay. So that's really a huge deal here. I can't emphasize that enough, how special of an experience that the Pioneers and the ELACs bring to the table over the Sony when it comes to the sound staging in every way. With the Sonys, it is a little bit harder for me to place instruments as well because the center imaging is not nearly as strong as these two guys here. I have to try to get a center image dead center on the TV using these. I do not have to try using these, especially the Pioneers. You can throw them up on the stands in any which way, and they do a phenomenal job at that. Okay, that's a big talking point. All right, so let's move on to my recommendations, and we are just flying through this review here, and the reason being is that it's splitting hairs with these speakers. Okay, it comes down to preferences, and in my next bit here, applications. That's the differences between these speakers. If you're looking for whichever one's the best buy, whichever one's the cheapest that day. I always told my wife that it was very hard to judge these speakers because of the fact that whichever set of speakers I had up on the stands that day was my favorite set of speakers at that time. And it would change when I switched them, okay? That's how good these speakers are, and that's how well they compare to one another. Recommendations. This could be the most useful part for most of you, all right? If you are hard of hearing, I'm going to say buy the Sonys. And that's just hands down. If you have a hard time making out what people are saying on your television, this is the speaker you want to buy. Okay? Okay. For low volume listening, Sony, hands down again. This speaker provides a lot at low volumes. The Pioneers would probably be the next for that recommendation, and because of those slightly recessed upper mids, the ELACs, they really wake up when you turn them up loud. Okay, but for low volume listening, it'd be kind of hard to recommend. All right, if you have a severely underpowered amp, like a $20 amp, or something, all right, I'd probably throw the Sonys on it. There's not a huge difference in sensitivity between these speakers. I think it's like 2 decibels. So you're looking at 1 or 2 clicks on like a cell phone, for instance, if you're playing music through that. You know, a few clicks on your stereo, a few clicks on your TV. That's going to be the difference. But if you do need the absolute most out of the least, as far as from your amplifier goes, throw the Sonys at it. Okay? All right. If you listen to almost entirely high quality audio recordings, you probably would prefer, you do well with the Sonys. Okay? And I guess that's not so much to say that you should buy the Sonys if you only listen to high quality audio, but maybe more so to say that if you don't listen to very good audio recordings, maybe avoid the Sonys. Okay? And to that nature, if you're listening to just flat out terrible recordings all the time, terrible audio sources, ripped, you know, music, the ELACs are going to be your friend there. Okay? They're going to take a lot of that dirtiness, dirty sound out of the music or source. Irritated by bass. All right, if you are irritated by bass and you're not irritated by treble, go ahead and pick the Sonys up. They're not going to bother you on the low end. But if you're not irritated by treble, then they're definitely going to suit you well. If you are irritated by treble, but you're not irritated by bass, the ELAC all day. Okay? It provides a lot of strong, punchy bass, and the treble is served up to you in a way that you're still getting everything. It's just not being thrown in your face quite as aggressively as some of the others. All right? If you have a big room, again, I would go with the ELAC. All right? And the reason being that the sound stage is so good, and they really do wake up when you turn them up. It mitigates a lot of the upper mid, recessed or veiled sound. All right? If you find yourself turning your music down often, and I know I already kind of went over this, but if you find yourself turning your music down often because the treble irritates you, just buy the ELAC. If you're listening to a 2-channel listening setup with no subwoofer, go ahead and buy the ELAC. And this Sonys would work as well. But overall, this is going to be the one that keeps you satisfied without a subwoofer the most. If you're seeking a visceral type of an experience, something more than just being able to set a speaker up and hear what it is that you expect to hear from it, if you're looking for a more of an, dare I say, emotional or personal type of experience, something a little bit different, that's going to be these 3, okay? Because the Sony does everything right that most people would expect a speaker to do at this price range, right? Okay? But if you're looking for something special, something a little more without having to spend more money, that's going to be these 3 guys here, okay? All right, and so as far as the Pioneer goes, this is a discontinued speaker. I know you can still find the center channel Big Brother on Amazon. I wouldn't recommend picking them up unless you can get them for closer to $50 a piece, which is what I most recently paid, because at about $100 a pair, this is a great set of speakers. But if you can even find the Pioneers, I'm sure there's a couple websites still selling them for probably 130, 150 bucks, somewhere in there. You could probably find them used. If the only reason that you would seek out the Pioneer is if you're just desperate for the absolute ultimate in affordable mid-range, or if you're desperate for a curved cabinet. Okay, otherwise, if those 2 things are not on the top of your priority list, then just buy the ELACs. Okay, the ELACs are kind of an upgraded version of the Pioneers, to be honest, with one caveat, and that would be that it does lose that upper mid-range magic. Okay. If you're going to pair these with a sub, I mean, you can go with any of them, obviously, right? I mean, that's the only thing you're not getting in this price range size category is you're not getting the big boom, but you can add the big boom. So don't worry about that, okay? All right. And to be honest, if you're looking for something in the middle, so say if you listen to these two speakers and you don't like them, maybe this one's too cold, maybe this one's too hot, you probably will find the Pioneer to be just right. It really does split the difference between these two speakers very well. It's eerie. It's almost as if all of these were designed by the same company, intentionally made not to step on each other's toes. The Roots 450, this is a speaker by a company called Speakercraft, all right? And as far as I can tell, they really don't make this, you know, home theater like this where you can just go and buy it off the shelf or buy it at the store anymore. What they do is more of a custom installation type of a deal. They did sell this speaker lineup I think 10 years ago now. They had a larger version, which was the Roots 650 that I think had a 6-inch woofer versus this 4-inch woofer. These retailed for $400, okay? They're very nicely built. I mean, you can't compare the build quality of the box itself. As far as the sound goes, the speakers on this table do everything better than this speaker, except for one thing, and that is detail extraction. These things extract the detail out of your music, every last bit of it, and they do it in a very nice way. They do not offend your ears. There's no harshness whatsoever, and they like to be turned up. Okay, I was very surprised when I listened to these speakers. I paid, I think, $35 for them, maybe $40. I don't remember. With gas prices these days, what's the difference? And I feel like I got a steal. Okay, I was not expecting them to be as good at that as they are. They actually make the Sony's sound slightly veiled, believe it or not. They extract detail like it's nobody's business, and they do it in a completely non-offensive manner. What these are good for is surround speakers. You could use them as mains. They're not going to provide as good of an experience as these would for mains, but you could. But what these really shine at is I use them for Atmos speakers. They extract all the detail out of the rain, the thunder, the crackling of trees, whatever's going on in the upper sound field from Atmos. These things absolutely nail it. They're very sensitive, equally as sensitive as the rest of the field here. They're very good little speakers. Point being, though, that these speakers do everything better except detail extraction. Okay? And that's all I got for you. All right? Ladies and gentlemen, I hope that you enjoyed my speaker review. I hope you learned something that's useful, and I hope that you can apply it to your life in some sort of a beneficial way. We're all in this together. Things are getting really crazy out there. Stick around. We'll have a few good times together. Take care.